What's up, beautiful people? This is your sister, Riziki-Zafira. I hope you like my little moo-moo and I'm all coordinated. I'm coordinated with my background. Okay, so welcome to, another edition of Tantra Talk Tuesdays, where I answer frequently asked questions about Tantra in general, but more specifically, the Grand Trine system of Tantra. And if you have not tuned into the first episode as far as what exactly Tantra is, the differences, so forth and so on, please be sure to do so that you can kind of catch up. I want to do a quick recap real quick for those who are just now tuning in. Again, our, definition of Tantra is activating, the original blueprint, activating the highest and best version of yourself. Now, again, in the Buddhist Tantra, Hindu Tantra, even though Tibetan Tantra and Tantra that comes from the Hindu system, if you will, their definition, insight, methods may be a little different, which is fine. Again, it's all about what resonates best with you. Again, I went over the indigenous systems that our particular school of Tantra comes from. Which consist of, again, the Nile Valley, the Indus Valley, the culture of Angkor Wat, and our Native American ancestors. So I started this series again because of the many misconceptions that is out there about Tantra. And, a lot of people just hear that word and they automatically turn away without really having a thorough study and or experience of Tantra itself. And I'm like, that's just a huge disservice to yourself and to the people you're sharing your information with when you have absolutely no experience in it at all. Also coming from the perspective that the word Tantra is a couple of thousand years old, and we've been on this planet for hundreds of thousands of years. And so Tantra is a word that was coined that pretty much includes a lot of our indigenous rites of passage, initiation, ceremonies, way of life, so forth and so on. So again, Tantra is a fairly new word, but a lot of these practices, these initiations, these ceremonies are older than the word itself. So I hope we have an understanding on that. And again, there are quite a few definitions out there, but I went through the school of Grand Trine. And again, we coin Tantra as the expression or manifestation of the higher, most authentic you. A lot of us are not the highest and authentic self because of a lot of the experiences that we went through that kind of made us build these walls and these protective mechanisms, if you will. So today I want to go over how else is Tantra beneficial besides sex. Again, one of the main things that people automatically shift to when they hear this word is sex. Now, being that sex is very much spiritual, it is the most creative, powerful energy on the planet. I also want to share, 4 major categories, if you will, as to how and why Tantra is also beneficial besides sex. And so what I'm going to go over today real quick is how Tantra can healing, heals you from certain types of trauma. It also helps with self-esteem and confidence, self-improvement. It also, believe it or not, has a hand in economics. And that was one of the main reasons. Like, I'm all for the balance of spirituality and economics. Sometimes a lot of us can become so spiritual and so engrossed in history that we're not even paying attention to how to function and, be competitive, if you will, in the job market, in your career, as a community as a whole. And then the fourth area I want to talk about is relationships. So again, today, Tantra, we're going to go over real quick how it helps heal trauma, how it helps boost self-esteem and confidence, self-improvement, how it plays a part in economics, and also our everyday relationships outside of just our personal ones. Okay, so first things first, I want to talk about trauma. Trauma comes from, you know, rape, molestation, of the feeling or experience of abandonment and rejection, and also this idea of living what we call the scarcity model. Okay, so first let's talk about, you know, rape and molestation. So in Grand Trine Tantra, we learn about what we call womb imprints for women, and men have also been raped and molested, and that is one of my specialties. I really have a passion for working with men who have suffered from some sort of sexual trauma, or trauma period, as far as abandonment and rejection. But I'll talk about the women first and then the men. So we understand this idea or theory called a womb imprint, and we understand that the first couple of sexual experiences that a woman has leaves an imprint with her. If many women take a look back at, you know, their first few sexual partners and recognize the similarities between these first few sexual partners and the partners they've been attracting throughout life, it most likely is going to have these guys are going to have a lot of similar characteristics. And so we understand that when a woman first allows these first few men in her body, they're leaving their energetic imprint with them, and that energetic imprint stays unless she's doing some kind of spiritual cleansing, you know, or aura cleansing, energy cleansing, womb cleansing, so forth and so on. And so what happens is when these imprints are left in our bodies, they tend to attract the same kind of energy that was left in there in the first place. So for instance, a lot of women who have been raped or molested, they have trouble in relationship because they're always associating sexual experiences with that trauma that they faced. They may be in relationships and a guy may look a certain way, have a certain mannerism, or say something that triggers her to remember that negative experience. And with men. So what I've come to realize is that men who have either been raped or molested, they go through this very harsh, emasculated kind of period where some of them constantly question their sexuality. Some of them question their manhood. Some of them question their emotional state. Some of them build a not healthy outlook on women, on men, on relationships, period. Sometimes there's a lot of timidness and closed off energy when a man is dealing in that kind of relationship sexually. And so how Tantra helps with these traumas is through, just like how you have these energetic imprints of that trauma, in Tantra, we understand working with the energy self to remove that trauma and imprint a better experience. Okay, so it's one thing to, excuse me as I sip my tea. It's one thing to sit on somebody's couch and talk about the trauma that you've been through. Talking helps, don't get me wrong, but what talking may not always accomplish is putting a better, more happy imprint in that area of life that suffered trauma, okay? And there's many ways that we accomplish that, through table work, through activating certain houses of the man and woman, through exploring the counterfeit personality. And again, I'm not going to get deep into that here. Oh, by the way, if you are interested in learning about my Tier 1 Tantra course, Awakening the Blueprint, feel free to click the link below. And it'll go more into, you know, exactly what we do and some of the benefits from it as well. So again, so rape, molestation, both men and women, it's all about removing that negative imprint from the energy body, from the mental, from the emotion, from the spirit, and imprinting more positive experiences, you know, in that imprint, in the mental, the emotional, so forth and so on. The next thing dealing with trauma is abandonment. So a lot of us, we sabotage our relationships and even ourselves just because of fear of abandonment and rejection. And so, you know, a lot of us have experienced abandonment from parents, from people who we took an interest in, and it really makes us defensive. And so what Tantra does is, again, we go through, you know, certain energy work, we go through certain ceremonies, through certain rituals, through certain psychological reflection, so forth and so on, to uncover or explore the reason why we fear abandonment and rejection. And there's certain you know, processes and activities that we do to kind of reverse that effect, to kind of reverse that trauma that you suffered, so that when you're entering in these relationships, you're not acting out based off of a fear of being abandoned or rejected. And I'll say for me, one of my biggest issues was the fear of rejection. I would not be assertive. I wouldn't be the initiator because I was afraid of rejection. And so when I had to take a look back and realize where that fear of rejection came from, you know, and healed that experience, I was able to become more of an initiator. I still have work to do, but I realized that I had a fear of rejection. A lot of people don't want to admit that. Some people don't realize that, but it affects our daily lives as far as not having enough confidence to initiate something, a conversation, a project, asking enough of yourself. A lot of us have been working these jobs, or we're in some kind of situation where we know we deserve more, but we're afraid to ask for it. Why? Because of fear of rejection, or because we fear being abandoned. When we ask for this thing, we're afraid that, you know, we'll be abandoned because no one wants to give. So a lot of us with this abandonment issue have been more giving, and we haven't even been used to receiving. We will sell ourselves in a sense, like buying your friends, or constantly feeling like you have to give in order for people to like you. I mean, it's really unhealthy. So that's that. Scarcity. I want to talk about that. So the scarcity model versus the abundance model is something else that we go over. So when a lot of people are in this perspective of everything is scarce, this is when we become more cutthroat, we become more conniving, we become more jealous. This more so particularly with women. This whole notion of there's not a lot of good men out there, so this is why, you know, we don't have a problem with being a side chick, or being dishonest, or I'll say this, being a side chick, or going after someone else's man, or being okay with messing with somebody who's clearly in a relationship, or married. And not all women who do that think that way, but I know a lot of them who do. Another scarcity model is, again, being cutthroat, the whole crab in a bucket mentality. You see somebody else being successful, and instead of being happy for them, you feel resentment because you feel like you're not able to accomplish that same thing. And so through Tantra, we leave this scarcity mentality, and we flow more into the abundance. And so if my sister, you know, becomes successful, that's my success. You know, if my brother becomes successful, that's my success. Instead of trying to pull him down, I want to also boost him up, because I know that he or she is going to pull me up as well, because I supported him or her. All right. So now I want to talk about the whole self-esteem and confidence thing. And this comes from, again, and I can only speak from personal experience, like me personally and what I've seen with other people, but there are certain gifts that people have, and they have been afraid to exercise or cultivate. Some people don't even know they have these gifts. And again, a lot of times when I do my star chart readings, I'll see people who have a natural talent for writing, a natural talent for being really, how can I say, strategic and methodical. And, you know, they make great scientists, they make great engineers, but they never equated this talent with that particular field or industry. And so they're using, you know, certain gifts, but in the wrong way. And when I say the wrong way, it's because it's not, it's like making an investment and it didn't give you as big as of a return that you would think it did. So that's one of the other reasons when we talk about, you know, improving self-esteem, improving, you know, your gifts and talents. Like for me, I have started to be able to dream more about people. And when I would call those people, they would be like, oh my God, like, how do you know? And oh my gosh, yeah, it's this situation going on. So it's me being able to tap into these certain gifts. And I just become more confident in my intuition and my hindsight and my foresight. Another thing with self-esteem and confidence is perspective change as well. So I love the amount of sisters that are in my Tantra group, all shapes, sizes, and shades and colors. And one thing that a lot of women and men we tend to do is body shame. Okay. Now, not all of us, you know, at 30, 40 years old may have a 20-year-old body. And, you know, some of us are dealing with gravity, with the stretch marks, with extra bulges here and there. And, you know, I have seen women who have, you know, who are affected by gravity, stretch marks, and have certain roles in certain places. And they just are so confident and so, you know, happy with themselves. And it's not like, you know, saying being overweight and all this, you know, is good. It's about, okay, yes, I'm overweight, but you know what? I'm also still confident in myself. And because I'm confident in myself, you know, I can say to myself, yeah, I need to lose some weight. I can go exercise or whatever. And for the things you can't change, the stretch marks, the saggy breasts. Hey, listen, I had children, I breastfed. I have an excuse. And even if I didn't have children and didn't breastfeed, this is my body. This is, you know, what I was given. And guess what? I don't feel ashamed about it. A lot of women, we tend to body shame, and a lot of men, they tend to body shame based on the images that they see on TV, and they expect their women to have these, you know, super firm, upright booties and boobs and stuff like that. And I'm like, come on, son, come on, you know, stop it. So that's another thing. Self-confidence, self-esteem, your changes are, your perspectives are changing, and also the ego. Woo, Lord have mercy. Let's talk about this ego, because that shit gets us in trouble a lot. So, and I can, again, speak for me, you know, I had to learn to calm my ego. It's not always about Riziki. You know what I'm saying? Even though it is, but it isn't at the same time. Ego as far as, you know, if someone's telling me something about myself, not to allow my ego to get involved. I need to embrace, you know, this constructive criticism so that I can make better improvements for myself. So again, healing trauma, self-esteem, confidence, bringing about certain gifts, you know, changing your perspective, not just on yourself, but relationships overall. That's another thing. I have such a realistic view of relationships. I'm no longer romanticized by the stuff I see on TV. I no longer feel that, you know, relationships are just this fairy tale and should be super easy. That's not the reality of it. It takes work. As you grow, you evolve, and as you evolve, you change. And two people who are evolving are experiencing these changes together. And, you know, as long as you are conscious and knowing how to work with that ebb and flow, there's less argument. And if there's disagreements, there's no yelling and cursing and shouting. It's more of a conversation as well, more towards solving the issue instead of concentrating on the issue. Economics, this is my favorite one. Okay, so how does Tantra help with economics? Well, first I want to talk about community. And I don't know if you guys read this book, but Powernomics by Claude Anderson. And I just wanted to read this little paragraph real quick. I haven't did story time in a while, but this was just really deep because I mean, I just applied this to the perspective change as far as economics and how it has helped improve. I mean, how Tantra has helped improve it. So one second. All right. So the first key to empowerment and empowerment culture. Okay. So since humans rely on culture for survival, culture is an essential empowerment tool for Black Americans. Americans, period. But, you know, I'm Black. So here. Okay. There you go. Or I'm Black, African, whatever, more, you know, Nubian, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, culture usually refers to the norms or systems of behaviors and shared values that are passed on from one generation to another. Essentially, culture is a script that is never neutral in its purpose. It either empowers or de-empowers a group. What it does to a group depends in large measure upon the position the group holds in the societal pecking order of acceptability and whether they are an in-group or an out-group. Culture's most important function is to promote cohesiveness and trust that bind members together through values such as group loyalty, pride, and respect. It is through culture that members of a group know who and what they are and how to behave. So that paragraph like really spoke to a couple of things. For instance, when you talk about being empowered or de-empowered or unempowered, whatever. So through Tantra, again, through these healing trauma, through self-esteem, through your gifts, through, you know, putting more positive imprints in yourself, in your energy body, in your spirit, it gives you more of an empowered sense. And imagine if you and a group of people are sharing this empowerment. Another thing is that, you know, culture's most important function is to promote cohesiveness and trust that binds members together through values such as group loyalty, pride, and respect. Now, for me, that is the main reason why we as a people cannot build community and be successful in cooperative economics because of the lack of loyalty, pride, and respect. So when we talk about loyalty, right? So for instance, even in my little, you know, group, the people who I went through these classes with, through these experiences, there's a bond that like that I'm not able to share with anybody else because we have witnessed each other's healings. We witness each other's cries, our screams, our laughters, you know, our traumas. We bear witness to all of these things. And there's just a bond there that, you know, really is hard to be shared with someone who did not share these same experiences. And then when we talk about pride, you know, yes, and this is going back to, you know, that abundance model. Pride in if my sister or my brother accomplishes something, this is an accomplishment for me too. Pride as far as, you know, I have this business. I want to be on time. I want to provide good customer service. I want a customer or, you know, a client to come to me and have a great experience from beginning to end. Because I have pride in myself, I have pride in my business, I have pride in my culture, in my community, and what I represent on a large scale. And then we have respect again. So, you know, respecting each other's time, respecting each other's values, our perspectives. And it's amazing, like, you know, I can sit here and talk to someone of a different culture, race, religion, and still have a respect for how they choose to live their life because, again, life is abundant. It's not scarce. You and I don't have to agree on the same thing. However, when it comes to economics and business, there's enough pride and respect there to honor each other's commitment. Another thing with the whole economic setup is that, you know, in Tantra or in Grand Trine Tantra, we explore the different houses of man and woman. And one of the houses from man and woman that deeply is included in the whole economics is the hunter for the man and the gatherer for the woman. Okay. So again, we've been a hunter-gatherer society for a long time. And so the hunter, again, knows how to go out and by any means necessary, get whatever needs to be had for the betterment of the community, of the whole. The gatherer, which is the woman, she knows how to utilize her resources. She can, look at all of the things that she set up and say, okay, I can go to this person for that, this person for that. I know where to go in case I need this. I know where to go to need that. So it's about knowing how to activate our roles in its highest form and use those roles to contribute to community, to business, to working relationships. Okay. So again, Tantra definitely has unlocked certain perspective and, erased a lot of negative perceptions about how we deal in business. Now, a lot of it was real. For instance, hey, let's keep it real. Some of our customer service sucks. Being on time, we have an issue being on time, starting on time. And again, because there's a lack of trust, a lot of us have an issue honoring the commitment that we've made. And, I can go on and on about that. But again, these are other ways that Tantra helps benefit, us besides just sex. Again, healing, self-esteem, confidence, economics. And the last but not least is relationships. Now, of course, relationships as far as personal man and woman, but I'm talking about friends, family, and even work. So, for instance, a lot of us, as we go through these journeys, we grow apart from our family and our friends. And some of us are working into these corporate plantations, as I like to call them. And we know damn well we don't want to be there. We don't even like the people that we work with. But one thing that helped me cope is understanding counterfeit personality. And understanding, the houses of man and woman, right? So for instance, let's just say I'm doing my growth, and I have friends who may be growing too, but they're not. And when we understand the psychology, the counterfeit personality, I'm like, okay, this person is this type, that person is that type, so forth and so on. Because I'm able to understand their personality type, I now know how to communicate with them. So let's just say if my message is, hey sis, I feel like you're being kind of trifling and you need to improve, based on their counterfeit personality, I know how to relay that message without pissing them off. I know how to relay that message so that they can embrace it, because that's the goal. One thing is, you want people to know your message, but you also want people to take your message and actually apply it to life. That's the goal. That's how we can be more effective. And so when it comes to my friends, I understand how to communicate. Members of my family, during holiday time, a lot of us can be like the black sheep or, the outlaw, if you will, because nobody understands us and you don't understand the BS that they got going on. So again, understanding, certain personality types, the counterfeit personality, the houses that they have online, you're better able to communicate, because it's about meeting them where they are so that you could take them where you feel that they need to go. Work life. Now, we all know we have that boss or that coworker that get on our damn nerves, okay? And I have had quite a few coworkers and bosses who portrayed certain personality types that are just straight up jacked, right? But hey, instead of getting mad, I understand why they act this way based on the personality that they're portraying. So now I know how to deal with you. Now I know how to manage people better, and again, this all also ties into economics, because one thing that we fail in, I believe, is feeling like you actually have to like the person you do business with, or you have to be friends with them, which is not necessarily true. My thing is this: I may not like you. I may not agree on some of the perspectives you have, but if I know you can perform this job and this task and handle the business I need you to handle, I'm going to go ahead and sign this contract with you because it's necessary. A lot of us miss out on opportunities and building relationships because of our emotions. And through Tantra, through this system that I've learned, it really allowed me to apply practical, like science, psychology, so forth and so on, so that I can cultivate relationships so that they could be more productive. Another thing that I wanted to talk about real quick, going back to the trauma, is generational trauma. And this is something else that I just thought was so dope, even though you learn this in a later tier, but we kind of get a little bit into it in the first tier, Awakening the Blueprint, and it's called epigenetics. Now, many scientists, and this isn't pseudo, because a lot of people like to be on the pseudo kick, but a lot of scientists have, said through epigenetics, this is how a lot of generational trauma is passed down. So a lot of your characteristics, a lot of your flaws may not be because of you. It's literally something that's been embedded in your DNA through the amount of generational trauma that has happened. As a matter of fact, tune into Tea Talk tomorrow, because we have a very brave sister who has been in this energy of incest and molestation. Not she didn't do incest, but this is in her family. She was molested by a member in her family. And I mean, I'm not going to get into details, but like just through certain text messages, you will see how an excuse was made for the molester because he was molested. So the excuse of, oh, this has been in our family for years. You know what I'm saying? And so again, this is having to do with not only like a mental issue, but epigenetics as well. You have activities and behaviors that are passed down through the genes. And when we study epigenetics, we understand that, the DNA in the cells, the information in the DNA in the cells can be healed. Okay. So again, Tantra is not all about sex. It heals you from trauma, rather rape, molestation, abandonment, rejection, scarcity. It helps improve your self-esteem, your confidence. It brings online hidden talents and gifts you may not have known were there. It definitely helps change your perspective on the world, yourself, and certain situations that would normally piss you off, but now you're able to look at it from another angle, to whereas you're not even taking yourself through unnecessary emotions. And again, the ego. It helps again with economics, building better community, activating, these certain houses of man and woman that we go through in my tier 1 course, Awakening the Blueprint. And again, exploring the counterfeit personality, the very thing that keeps us blocked from receiving the abundance we're supposed to receive. I just talked to an awesome sister yesterday. She's married. And she, always wondered why, why is it when I'm engaging in this activity with my husband, my mind goes somewhere else? And oh yeah, when I was 3 years old, I was freaking molested. So again, how do we remove that negative experience from not just her mind, but her emotions and her spirit, her aura, her energy field? And then lastly, the relationships. Again, not just with the opposite sex, like personal relationships, but your family, your friends, and your work environment. So again, I hope that answered some questions. Hey, Doug. Yes, you're late, but it's okay. A lot of people I know will view this after I log off. But again, I was just going over the many uses of Tantra besides sex. And again, if you all want more information on my Awakening the Blueprint course, feel free to click the link below. Also, feel free to email me, contact@Riziki-Zafira.com, or visit my site, www.Riziki-Zafira.com. Hit me up on Facebook. If you have any more questions, maybe I can include that in the next session. Yeah, so peace and love, and everybody have a wonderful Tuesday. Deuces.